Hello, fellow travelers, and welcome to another episode of Vertical Stars Podcast 4th season. How my loyal listeners, thank you for continued support. Enjoy this amazing interview because Ernie Altbacker boards the mothership to discuss Area 51 Studios now on Kickstarter. You know him as the writer of the animated films Batman Hush and Green Lantern Beware My Power. Now come aboard as we go traversing the stars. Hi, Mr. Altbacker. Thank you for coming to Vertical Stars Podcast.
How you doing, Jeff?
Thanks so
Glad to
much.
be on.
It's a pleasure to have you, sir. I'm a fan of a lot of the movies that you've written for DC anime, especially the DC animated ones. So big honor. I always start off with a question of inspiration. So, what inspired your love for writing, and who are your earliest influences?
Jeez. I mean, inspirations. Obviously, I was young when Star Wars hit. That just blew my mind. But I read sci-fi and fantasy from a pretty young age. So I was trying to take down the Lord of the Rings when I was 10 or something. And those type of things, Heinlein, Asimov, uh, because kind of in the 70s, sci-fi didn't look great most of the time, until Star Wars.
Yeah.
It always looked pretty fake, and you were like, wow, I wish it could be more like a war movie, or even some of the monster movies. The guy in the rubber suit is better than this. And then it all changed. So now I'm very jealous of everybody who gets to wake up young and go, oh my God, and now they're like, the CG is crap here. I'm like, oh, go watch the cartoons that I was watching. Yeah,
I remember like a lot of people with the Marvel movies are like, "Oh, the CGI has gotten so bad over the last." It's like they are so much better than when I was a kid. Just how can that be ruining your time?
Exactly. It's gonna be better and better. I mean, like in 20 years, it could be like, what? I can't be in the movie? Like in the other ones?
Right, be
Okay.
like the wrinkle on his forehead didn't move when he spoke. That's just bullshit. Like what?
Yep, yep. So yeah, there's so many comics and television shows. I mean, even beyond, like, yes, they look kind of fake. It's like I see this hallway going by a couple of times, or this room looks the same as the last one in Star Trek.
Right, right,
They get it's just like a lamp.
right.
It's I mean, that's all they could afford to do. Yeah, that boulder doesn't look real. But still, I enjoyed them, and they totally imprinted on me. So,
Hmm.
I hope that kind of answers your question.
Well, you worked a dream job of having written some fantastic DC animated films, as you saw the Teen Titans Judas Contract. You wrote Injustice, Batman Hush. I believe Green Lantern Beware My Power. I mean, you've written some great DC animated films. So when you're writing for these animated films, how are you finding these characters' voices, and how have you translated your skills at being writing these scripts to writing comic book scripts?
Well, at first, I guess if it hasn't been done before, um, then I'm just casting it. I'm mentally casting it for myself, and I'll just go with that. But if it has, if like when we were doing the Tuckerverse, if someone is Superman already, I think that's Jerry O'Connell, then I have his version of Superman in my mind when I'm writing that kind of cadence at least. And then there's the sections, I guess, where you're changing it a little bit, like in Justice. I was like, nah, I'm going to suck all the warmth out of this dialogue. She's just going to be a warrior that will kill you if you face her on the battlefield. It's like
Right.
no F's given here. Um, and I mean, yeah, sometimes you get to do new stuff, like with the first Justice League Dark. I pretty much got to do my own story and take some of J.M. DeMatteis's that had worked on the project a little bit before me, but then had to move off some to do something awesome, I'm sure. Um, or it's a process of kind of winnowing down. Um, like with Batman Hush. It's 12 issues, and they're contracted at Warner Home Video. They say you get 72 minutes of original animation. Now, sometimes it just like we just use one, the animators just use one cell and they scan and pan and do that dialogue. So then it counts as more. And that's why you get some of the films are 80 or 90 minutes. That's all like the director, the supervising animators magic, right? But you can't get everything in there. So you have to cut stuff, or as it's known out in internet land, ruining people's childhoods.
God damn it.
Yeah. Everything cannot be packed in there. Sorry. And yes, it would be a great idea. It would be a great idea if it was a 20 episode show on streaming and each of them were an hour long and you can get every single thing in there. But they weren't paying for that. So they were paying for this thing to be a 72-minute show. And we were lucky that we got 90.
So, when you're writing, let's say Batman, do you hear Kevin Conroy or?
I hear Omara, I hear Jason
Mhm.
because he's the one that was in the first Justice League Dark, and then I saw him perform it, and so yes, like before,
Yeah.
I guess yes, while I was writing the first Justice League Dark, but then after I saw Jason O'Mara perform it, then his voice because I I just had a much more, like this was the one in those movies and
Right, right,
that
right, right.
that I was writing. If I had gone, if I had written a bunch of Batman the animated series, I'm sure that it
Mm.
would have.
Now, the thing that you said that's kind of interesting is that when you're writing these animated films, there's a time limit. You have about 72 minutes. That's what you got. You can't go, you don't have 75 minutes, you don't have 69 minutes. You got to hit, it's about 72. Now, as we're going to talk about, you writing, this is your first comic book we're going to discuss in a moment. That's also has a page limit. Usually 24 pages. You only have a certain amount of pages that you got to work with. How does it help you mentally to write a comic book within the constraints of panels per page, 24 pages, doing animation where you only had these amount of minutes that you could use?
Well, I mean, comic book seems to be even more strict. With a movie or even a TV show, they can jam a surprising amount in there with animation magic. With the comic book, you got 20, 23. They might put an ad or something in there, use it for a different purpose. They give you the amount. The time I wrote for DC, I did a small story for Future State, and it was 10 pages. And in those 10 pages, we did like 25 years of stuff in the story to Guy Gardner, and it has to come out in the wash. And I'm like, man, this panel's got to work for it. Like every panel has to work for you. Well, I'm not at the luxury time where, if you're a name brand writer, you're gonna be like, I'm gonna really blow this fight out with, talking with your artist. It's like,
Mm.
let's go a little while. If they were doing something, you know, like here's the big thing, right? Here's the big thing with Tom King and whatever. They get to go, you know what, we went over.
Mm.
But I do not.
So how does the artist? You say you squeezed 10 years of history, or something you said 20 something years of history into 10 pages for your Guy Gardner story. So that's a lot putting in there. Like, do you like phone your artist, and be like, "Sorry, dude, you got a lot of work to do. I'm cramming a lot in these panels."
You know what? In that case, I didn't. The artist on that, he's great, but he was such a professional. He's like, I got this. We never even had each other's emails. It was through the editor. So the
Mm.
editor did that for me in that time, you know.
So, because honestly, I don't live in the world of animation like you have. As you mentioned, when you worked with the artist in the comic books, you didn't have a direct connection to the artist. Now, when you were doing the animated series, did you ever have a chance to talk to the animators and talk to them directly about what you wanted?
Yeah, well, for like Green Lantern, the animated series, I did. For Spider-Man, the animated series, I was too new. That was my first ever job. But for Green Lantern, they were in the same room. So you were
Hmm.
walking past them and you could actually like look over their shoulder and be like, oh, he's working on the one that I did. You know?
Oh, that's awesome. That's gotta be an awesome feeling.
Now that isn't to not that isn't to say we couldn't give notes. You know, the overall person who was running it was Bruce Timm, and the
Yeah.
directors were Sam Liu and Rick Morales. They could do that, right? But we didn't. But we could see him. You know, we could go,
Right.
oh my God, that looks so great. And you know, every now and again, you got the odd question about this section that you wrote, and it was more like they fly around in a whirlwind and fight. It's like, how do you see this? Because you didn't give them enough in the writing,
Yeah.
right? Like you kind of screwed it up. That was the only time the artist, the storyboard artist or something, you know, the prop guy or the character designer would come over. It's like, what do you see this person in, or where is he? You know, like, and that was always not the best meeting.
So you're doing animated series when you're walking by these artists doing your episode. Was there ever time to have like a little sticky note and just like casually just put it somewhere on there, like do it like this, or can you put a little more red in that picture, please?
Absolutely not. And plus, they were so talented. You never had to do that. That show was a dream to work on.
Hmm.
It was fantastic. That was one of the biggest disappointments I've had in my career, to not get a second season, because
Hmm.
oh my, what Jim Krieg and Giancarlo Volpe and Bruce Timm had planned for the next 26. Um, it's a little bit weird. I you know that they those are it's a CG show, so they have all these assets
Yeah.
and they still have them. So you would think they could produce more of them, and if they didn't introduce anything new, there's still a lot of stories you could tell.
Hmm.
Um,
Oh,
but
I was a big
that's just
fan.
my wish.
Oh,
I'm gonna put that out into the
mind
universe.
you, I was a huge fan of Green Lantern animated series. I've bragged about this before. I'm gonna brag about it one last time. I have every single Green Lantern comic book and related comic book from 1960, the first Silver Age one, to now. Every single miniseries, annual, crossover, I buy them all. I have every single one. The animated comic book, bought every single one of them. So I'm a huge Green Lantern fan. Like I said, literally have all of them. So when that show came out, that was a big deal seeing my favorite character, like on the cartoon like that. And yeah, it bummed me out too when I was like, wait, this has to have this. It doesn't have to have three seasons. That's just how these things go. Isn't that what animation happens with animation? So
Well, so and what we were talking about before, that was the previous Green Lantern was the Filmation Green Lantern in 1967, which was a 2D, very reused show. I'm glad it existed.
right.
I liked it when I was 6 or 8. But try and get someone to watch that now, and then look at that Green Lantern, and they're going, it's not populated enough. I'm like, go watch what I had to watch, and then just tell me that whatever.
So
Pet peeve, Jeff. Pet peeve. Sorry.
after having this great career as a, or still have a great career as this writer for animated movies, you decided to try your very own comic book called Area 51 Studios. So, what made you finally think to yourself, you know what, I want to do my own comic book now?
Well, you know what? I've always wanted to do my own comic book, or it was the goal. It was like, let me try and get into DC or Marvel because I've written these movies. They'll obviously want me. Well, they've got plenty of great people. They got plenty of great writers. They didn't want me. So I did get to write a story here and there. I think I've got some in whatever, the back room with no art. But I was like, if I wait, they're probably never going to call. So I'm going to just skip to that point of doing a bunch of those, name brand comics and then doing my own to just doing my own. And so that's kind of what we're doing. I kind of, let's see, I it was a Comic-Con panel actually, the Comic Creators Connection, which is always in WonderCon and San Diego. Each of the 3 days of the con, like from 5 to 7, and they describe it as speed dating between writers and illustrators. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to that this year. And everybody was really nice. And I saw a bunch of great artists. I knew this was the project that I wanted to do first. I wanted to get out of the hard drive and into the world. And I just saw this single image from this artist, Josh White, ended up being the one who did it. And so I was talking. His stuff was really good. So I'm sure a lot of people were like, "Ooh, I'm going to try and convince this guy." And I remember kind of saying, "Hey, I do some work for DC, and I think that might help after." And I could see in his eyes of like, that's probably bullshit, right? And I went away, and I'm like, "Stupid! Why did I say so?" Right? Like, why did I brag about myself? Jesus. Uh, but the next panel that he did, or the next panel that he went to with his friends, and he said he was talking to people, and it was Justice League War World, which I wrote on, and the panel I was on, and I was the first one out. They introduced me as like Ernie Altbacker, and I guess he was in his seat going, "No, that's the guy I just met." And his friend goes, "I guess he wasn't full of shit." Of
That's
people
awesome.
from DC. So there's me. That encapsulates part of my career. Not totally full of shit.
So you should carry your IDMB page with you, like a little printout of it. Be like, see, this is me with my face. This is me.
Oh my God, that would be so horrible. I think some people do it on the back of their cards.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. So Area 51 Studios is the book, and what you're launching on Kickstarter. So for those who don't know or not aware of it, it's about basically takes the idea of Area 51, but instead of being a place where UFOs are like being hidden, it's where aliens are making films, right? It's a studio for aliens, right?
Oh, it's actually a little bit more down and dirty than that.
I'll go for it.
It's so everybody thinks that Area 51 is this secret military base where they have the crashed spaceship and the bodies of the aliens from the spaceship. And really, it's been around for far longer than the United States, thousands of years, because this film company has put down a studio lot and they use the Earth as a cheap location to film alien reality TV and beam it out to the rest of the galaxy. So if your planet is the fish planet and stuff, so they're doing something in the ocean and they're filming it here as a cheap location because they can't afford to go any place better. In fact, the oft mentioned spaceship and the corpses were actually from a student film in my little world, and the students got afraid as an army jeep pulled up and they just ran and left it. And the props are so good, we think that it's a real body and a real ship, but really that's just a prop for them. It looks way better than our props.
Yeah.
It's better than the styrofoam rock that we had on Star Trek, but it can't fly. And those weren't real people,
That
you
sounds
know?
awesome. That is awesome. So having been in the world of human Hollywood, not alien Hollywood, is it's some of what you have in your. I mean, is this inspired from your experience with these movie types?
Yes, absolutely.
Anyone you can point and be like, it's that guy.
It's well, no, not this particular first run story, but there's all these little side stories that yes, it's very much pulled. And the plan would be at some point to if the series continues. I want to do 4 episodes, and then I'm going to gather it up into a trade paperback, right? And that will tell this one story that I had written a novella about. Um, and so if it goes past that, I'm going to ask my friends for their stories of like, come on, worst pitch meeting, like what happened, right? Or just worst studio meeting to go over notes. Like tell me the thing, and then they could have their own little private jokes um in the comic book. So I think I would get a lot of material if I put it out there.
You could make it a reward tier for your Kickstarter. At this amount, give me this amount of money, and your silly Hollywood story will show up as a part of my comic book.
You know what, Jeff? I think that's going to go in. I think we could do that as a reward tier for this book for book number 2.
I'm telling you, you
Oh my God. This show is a wonder worker. It is beautiful. I
So, just for the listeners, so they know, what is the goal you're reaching for?
oh, $3,500. Yeah, we
Oh,
figure that'll cover the printing cost. Part of it is I this whole thing is based on a novella. I When I pitched this idea to my agents, my former agents, they were remarkably uninterested. It was too weird for the time, whatever. They were probably right. And they might still be. We'll see, I guess, with the Kickstarter. Uh, but I had to get it out. So I wrote this novella, about a 25,000 word novella. And I always had planned to, I I self-published a novella before, and I was like, okay, I'm going to publish this one next. I never got to it. So now that we're doing the comic book, we are also going to do the novella.
that's
So
cool.
any people that are kind of like nervous Nellies that are like, I don't want to get halfway in the story and they're not going to finish. Thing is, you can buy the novella as an add-on, and it's cheap. Like the digital novella to put on your Kindle is $5.
Hmm.
So you get that's a lot of entertainment. I think it's a pretty fun novella. Well, it got someone to do this thing with me. So
As long as they
it's
learn you weren't full of shit.
yeah. So I mean, that's going to be it's also to make a print version of that novella, and the postage on that, even though it's going to be just say 150-page book, is crazy. It's like eight.
Hmm.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome. So, I mean, I really think it sounds like a fantastic idea, and I got to read a little bit. I also looked at the Kickstarter, but your main character is, and if I'm saying the name wrong, correct me, Zephyr Boone.
That is
Right.
correct.
So he's your protagonist. He's obviously done some recent failures that he's had, but in your opinion, are those failures an issue of talent, personality, or luck?
Well, hmm, there is luck. It's a little of all three. Sometimes the Hollywood, the galactic Hollywood gods shine on you, and sometimes they taketh away. And also, he's got some frenemies that are constantly trying to sabotage his productions. So that could also be it. But bad review sometimes sinks you. Um, but it's kind of like I guess the tone is it's not too horrible and real like some of the behind the scenes Hollywood shows that we've seen on Netflix or Amazon. It's more of a fun thing. I guess it's a Douglas Adams
Hmm.
tone mixed with some Men in Black and also some Monty Python side adventures and jokes. So if you like that type of stuff, and it's kind of a love letter to all the stuff that inspired me when I was growing up. So sometimes a character will be just named after someone, like General Kubrick. Well, guess who inspired me, right? But other times I will mix up the letters and form planets or system names or race names from those letters. And then sometimes I'll just take something that's really a deep cut. So there are hundreds of references in the novella. There aren't as many in the obviously it's just one issue of the comic, but I hope to jam in most of them once by the time we get to issue 4. But that'll be a fun side game, I think, for some
Hmm.
people that really kind of know, like, oh, I know what that's from. I know
So,
sometimes they're like particular wording of a sentence, and I just won't say anything about it. So we'll see.
so what was Zephril? So are we talking? I mean, is he like the Ed Wood of the Alien verse, or is he good but just had a bad run?
I think he's good. Uh, then had a bad run, but yes, he can also be the Ed Wood. Now, I will give you an example. I will give
Okay.
you an example. Um, I, God, I'm getting the, I know I'm going to get the book wrong, but one of the Douglas Adams characters is Zaphod Beeblebrox. So I purposefully named my guy with the same initials because
Yeah.
I'm a big Douglas Adams fan.
Right, 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 right,
Right?
right.
And naming a character Douglas or Adams wasn't doing it for me, you know?
So when you're thinking about the world that you created, right? So you have these aliens with the studio on Earth. Obviously, somewhere along the way, um, the humans have populated the Earth, and especially in this country. Why are they still allowing the aliens to film on their property?
Well, let me tell you, this is covered in the novella.
Okay.
Actually, they did not. They have a system of screens that are illusionary in nature, where you get dizzy and go away from it, or you still can't see it. Right? It's got those kind of like cloaking devices, right? But at a certain point, and that point was at World War II, there was a power age. After World War II, there was a power. The whole student short thing, leaving the corpses and the alien spaceship out was one thing. They started really searching and they found it. And this was during Woodrow Wilson's time. So Woodrow Wilson's like, we might have to bomb that place. Their shields would have taken it, but the location would have been ruined around them. They didn't want
Mhm.
that. So they teleported Woodrow Wilson in his night clothes in the middle of the night and said, we've been here for thousands of years filming, and this is a good deal. So you can either get some technology here and there and make sure nobody comes around here anymore, or we can destroy the earth and use it for sets in our other productions in other solar systems.
Yeah,
What's your choice? I'm sorry, this would be Harry Truman. It's Harry Truman, not
right,
Woodrow.
Sherman.
Sorry, Harry Truman. So very important. The years are wrong. So Truman said, okay. And that's why Area 51 was formed. That's a
That's
true
cool.
story. That's a true story, my friend. That is the true story of it. So, I mean, why am I allowed to say it? Well, I'm a friend of Zeph. I'm a friend of ZB. So,
That's awesome.
yeah.
So his new project is called The Human Race. That's kind of the one that he's trying to like restart his career with, right? So what can you tell
Yeah.
me about the nature of his human race? So and how does it work him through his eyes making a movie about us?
Well, he's had some bigger productions before. Now, he's kind of the reality show programmer. When he sees something good, most people don't care about what the Earthlings are doing, right? He'll look and see, is there any drama in it? Can I get some ratings out of this? So the thing that he won the Alien Oscar for, they call it the Sarco, which is the same letters but only mixed up. See,
Hmm.
uh, for Best Picture was for the Crusades. Okay, so he did a reality show for the Crusades. He's also done the Black Plague, the Battle of Midway, and so those were like kind of big, all-encompassing things. Then he did some crappy ones. He lost his money. There's some gambling involved. He likes some things that are quite expensive as entertainment. And now he's down to the grandiosely titled Human Race, but it's very low budgeted. So all he has basically is five people in a trailer in the middle of the desert. And that's what he's calling the human race. So, yeah.
So,
Oh, he also gets his people like the moment they die, right? He knows when somebody's going to die in a car accident or something. His ace assistant, Kaz, kind of takes this information and goes, who's going to be compelling on screen, and grabs those people. So they have a choice. Would you like to be in my galactic production of the human race, or would you like to go back to being dead? Most people say, I'll take the show.
right. So, for Boone, as an individual, how, I mean, how is he as an individual, as a person? I mean, is he someone who, I mean, does he have an ego? Is he in the way of his own ego? Is he someone who really wants the films to do well, or is it, is it like an ego thing, or is it like the arts? Like what kind of guy is this Boone?
Oh, he's a giant egomaniac. But in that ego, self-serving, and he would do anything. He would throw his mom on railroad tracks for a point higher in the galactic ratings, in the orbital insta ratings. But underneath that envious, jealous, um, and egotistical outer shell, there does beat a very small heart of a kind person that wants to do the right thing,
Hmm.
as long as it doesn't cost him ratings or he has to work too hard to do it, you
Yeah.
know.
Everything's a fascinating concept. So it's being launched on Kickstarter in June. What day in
June
June?
2nd,
June
June
2nd.
2nd. So yeah, I don't know when this is going to air, but it's this Monday.
So when you're thinking about the Kickstarter, what reward tiers are there available for the listeners or the backers, as it were?
Well, there's the digital ones, which are very economically priced, of both the comic and the novella. You can get the print versions. Um, and then there's a couple variant covers by Josh. One is a Men in Black cover, and the other one is taken from a scene from 2001, where the guy's walking down the thing. It's kind of a famous shot. If you've seen the film, you will know the shot. Except it's like ZB on a cell phone instead of the astronaut walking down this hallway with his respirator. Um, and so the only extra tier that we have right now is the draw me in tier, right? So you get all the stuff, right? You get whatever we can give you, the all the alternative covers, alternate covers, and the digital versions and the print versions. They get all of those mailed to you, and we would draw you in as a side character or an alien. And I think there's two or three spots. So the comic is done. Issue one is done, except we got to change the faces on whatever those are, whoever might try and do that. I don't know if anybody is, but we just thought that would be a fun one. Um, and now we're going to have your stories
That'd be
as
so awesome.
now we're going to have your stories as like $100 tier.
Oh, that'd be so awesome.
And I think so. We'll see.
So the other thing, interesting thing, so being your first crowdfunder, So once again, for anyone who's done this, and I've been a part of it as well before, for other campaigns, the first time you do it, it's always a learning experience. So what have you learned about the process of crowdfunding, as you go down this very exciting, stressful journey for the next 30 something days?
Well, it's a big mystery. June 2nd is going to be a big mystery to whether there'll be anybody backing this thing. I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to do as much as I can to get the word out there. I don't want to hammer my friends and family to do it because this thing's going to be 4 issues and I can't see coming back every 4 months. Uh, to, you know, and then a fifth time to do the trade paperback. So I'm going to try and gather an audience of like-minded people. I've been backing projects on Kickstarter for years. Um, and hopefully I can kind of tap into something. We can figure out. I mean, with the tiers, I was like, God, we don't have a lot of tiers. It's like it's issue number one of a new comic by two people that have never done a Kickstarter before. I know other people have like, here's my other comic series on there, and here's whatever. Yeah, none of that. I suppose I could put like I have like an extra poster of this. It's like, would somebody want it? But
Um,
it seems like it's not any part of the project.
well,
So like why?
I'll give you a tip. I'll give you a tip from my experience as a crowdfunder. Um, Talk to your artist, sketches. Original sketch work, especially from the pages, sell like hotcakes.
Original sketch work, but everything he does is on a computer.
Well, that's Well, one thing you could do with that is there's often a way, I believe, for to work with a computer to have it like print professionally. He probably knows the way of doing it. But
Okay.
I would bring it up. Or a lot of people who do things on computer can also sometimes do things. Usually can do things too as a hard copy. But usually how that works is, let's say you did a sketch for $100. You're also gonna pay your artist a certain amount of money to do the sketch, and then the rest is your money for your thing. But they usually sell pretty well.
Okay. Well, you know what? We'll talk it over. We still
Also,
have time. We still have some time to like change the wording of some things and
the
see if we can do it.
another one that works well because if he does computer, he can't print anything. Prints. Prints. So he makes an image and then he produces just tons of different copies of it. And usually those are a little cheaper because they're prints. But as long as he gets his money for doing the some of it, prints tend to sell pretty well as at the very least as an add-on because you want to put on some add-ons.
Yeah.
So just a recommendation from someone who's been in the in the battle a few times. Some recommendations.
But now, do would people buy original art or a print from a person? I think he's gonna be a big artist because Josh does everything. Josh does the lettering, the coloring, the penciling, the
Hmm.
inking. He does it all. So I think other people are going to be like, oh, I want to deal with a person, just one person, and he's going to get a lot of jobs. But as a guy from Arizona who draws some pictures, is somebody going to buy something from him for $50?
Oh, if you've been to comic book conventions, they pay that for artists all day long. So yeah,
Well, that's different though. I mean, yes, I know about those artists and they have a following. We're talking about this is a brand new person, owns a graphic design shop, has not done this type of stuff. Well, he has, if you look at his art, he has done some projects, various projects,
I,
but
I would say yes. There's
okay,
people
good.
who
You know
will
what?
likely do it.
I-
Especially at the price point. I mean, and so a lot of Kickstarters will have people who are selling sketches for well over $100, and even sometimes people will buy those at those prices as well. But yeah, there's always people who, especially if they like the book and they like what they see in the page that you've shown,
Hmm.
they'll put out a cash for it, especially if it's using the characters. So yeah, trust me, these people do these things.
All right. You know what? We have a meeting on Friday. Just, I'll just mention that. Like, more work for you. Make this stuff
Right,
before.
right. But the cool thing with the Kickstarter is if you put it in, let's say it's $65, right? Some of the money goes to him as a payment for doing it, and if no one does it, it didn't cost him a penny. It doesn't cost you a penny anyway. So the nice thing about it is, um, if it works, you made money, and he made money. If it doesn't, no one does it. It didn't cost you a penny. The only thing that would be you want to look into, which I don't know the answer for, the cost of shipping original artwork is a thing. So he may know or may not know, but you may want to look into that too before you put it a tier. Make sure you know what the printing cost are. Because so
Yes.
for the backers, because we're gonna have plenty of backers, when can they expect to start getting their book?
Well, I've heard that it does take a little bit while for Kickstarter to send the money over, so that's gonna delay how we can do the print copies of the novella and the comic. But the digital copies should go out very fast in July, first, second week of July. And then I think we should start shipping around late July, early August, right around there. But we're gonna, as soon as we get it, we are going to be on that, and hopefully have gotten all of our ducks in a row. So it's going to be the shortest time frame that it can be.
So very good. So for all the listeners, we'll put a link to the campaign in the show notes. Let's check the show notes, and you can get a link to the Kickstarter directly. Mr. Altbacker, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show, sir. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Jeff. Thanks for having me, and I hope everyone has a great day.